All right, guys, let's get the Prep Spotlight going. As always, the Prep Spotlight is brought to you by our friends at Jacobs Insurance. Be sure to check out their website, their Facebook page, and all that kind of stuff for all your insurance needs. Jacobs Insurance. Great people over there. Coming with us or joining us today is Tyler Graham. He's the guy behind all the social media pages, Michigan High School Football Frenzy. Give him a follow on Twitter or X, Instagram, Facebook, Michigan High School Football Frenzy. You have a great page over there for it. Just, you update every score possible every Friday night. I can't imagine how your battery life is on your phone because you are just retweeting and posting scores and everything. So thanks again for joining us. And 4 weeks into the season already, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's flying by. I was seeing kids post their like mid-season tape, and I'm like, it feels early. And then I looked, and I'm like, oh shoot, it's not early. It
Right.
really is about mid-season. So
Basically
yeah, it's
mid-season
crazy.
already. We're approaching October. So yeah, that's what we want to talk to you about. We brought you on.
Yeah.
We want to talk some high school football. We're in the Prep Spotlight. So you've become kind of a staple of our Prep Pigskin preview that we drop before the high school football season starts. You've been on now 2 years in a row, so we appreciate that. But kind of the
Absolutely.
formula of our Prep Pigskin preview, we ask our experts, give us, 3 teams to watch, 3 players to watch, from there and there. So let me tee you up like that. What are 3 surprises that you've seen so far this season? Whether it's 3 teams that you're just blown away with, 3 players, what are 3 surprises that you've seen so far 4 weeks in?
Yeah, I would probably start off with number one, Chesning. I know you guys have followed them really close. Um, I wasn't sure how it would come together. I knew they had talent and I know they have good coaching, but I wasn't sure last year. It felt like they were taking the right steps, but it felt like it was just a centimeter off from being
Right.
the right thing. It feels like this year they've really put that together. So that was a surprise to me. I was like not so sure that they would be able to put it together, but they've done a great job. They have a great program over there. I'd say another one would probably be a player, um, Drew Rankin, D-back out of Northville. I've talked about him a number of times, and I wasn't sure how he could follow up last year any more impressive, and he's done it again against just elite competition. And he's not the biggest, he's not the fastest, he's not the strongest, but his technique is unbelievable, and he has the heart that you can't teach. That's one of those kids that just has it in him. He has the
Right.
instincts to be a winner, basically, and a leader. And it's something you can't teach, especially nowadays. It feels like leadership qualities in a kid, it's really, really hard to find. So that's been kind of fun to follow with him.
Yep.
And then the last team, I would say Hudsonville Unity Christian. They just, knocked off Forest Hills Eastern or Forest Hills Central, Forest Hills Eastern. They have had a resurgence. It felt like they've been kind of broken since they had that bad
Right.
loss
Oh,
in the
sure.
state finals. They put up like 800 points in a season. It was like double what anybody else had put up all season. And it felt like just they've been off since then. And this year they've started to put it back together. They're putting the pieces back together. So I like seeing that program. That's a program that one of those West Side programs you think of and you're like, oh, yeah, they're going to be good. So it's nice to see them kind of climb their way back in.
You cover a lot more than what I focus on. I'm kind of pigeonholed here in mid Michigan, you know what I mean? And you bring up Chesaning, and a couple weeks down the road, if Chesaning and Ovid Elsie can win their next 2 games against Birch Run and Montrose, they flip flop on the schedule, but could set up an epic battle here in mid Michigan at Mark O'Donnell Field for Ovid Elsie and Chesaning. You know much about the Indians? I know our favorite player, or the Indians, I mean the Marauders. Our favorite player is Trice Tokar. He can do anything.
Yeah, yeah, he's probably one of the very few kids I know from over there. But again, Ovid Elsie, another team that seems like they always kind of string together good seasons. They're always right in the thick of it, especially in this area. So
Right.
I think that'll be a showdown if they can both get through the next couple weeks. I think that game will be kind of on that same level. Like last year, I tell people all the time, one of my favorite atmospheres was the Corona Goodrich game.
Oh
Like
yeah.
that was just an unbelievable atmosphere. The crowd was packed. The town was like busting like I've never seen before. I think it has that kind of potential to be like
Yeah.
just that crazy atmosphere again that you love to see.
So you're saying before you jump, so you're going to go to that game if they're both
I
undefeated? Are you penciling
Yeah,
that one
I
in?
think I'm penciling that one in. That one has been circled for a while now, so I like that one a lot.
I like having you on, obviously for your football analysis, but you're just a jolt of, and this is maybe a big brain question for listeners who are listening to hear about high school football, but also this is a life question. You have a positive energy that just is always radiating. Where does that come from? Is that because it's football season, or I always appreciate it every time you're on?
Yeah, I mean that probably doesn't hurt anything. That this is my prime, man. This is just what makes me happy, and it makes me happy too because like this really started off as just a goofy hobby. Like I didn't think
Right.
anybody would follow it. Like when I hit 500 followers, I was like, this is ridiculous. Now I'm up to like 21,000. I feel like more.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's just super fun. And the reason I started was just to talk high school football with
Right.
people. Like that's really what it stemmed from. So I think just the whole fun of it, basically, it just gives me energy. It's fun. This is my favorite season. This is my favorite sport. We are in like today. The weather was beautiful. Like it felt like football weather, and there's just something different about it when it feels like this in the air.
So we mentioned that Chesaning over at Elsie game. You cover, like what Ted said, we're a little bit pigeonholed to Shiawassee County. You kind of cover a lot greater area than us. Is there a certain game outside of that game that you're kind of looking forward to in the later half of the season here?
Yeah, actually, there's a game that's kind of on my mind coming up this week. East Kentwood and Hudsonville. East Kentwood is on the rise. They got Ty Spencer from Detroit King. That's been huge for them. I was at their kind of preseason like inter-squad scrimmage, and it was different. I had been around East Kentwood a couple other times, and there's just a different feeling. They're, they got a couple of transfers. They got a couple kids back that thought about transferring. So that team is really on the rise. And then Hudsonville just got like a program win against Rockford.
Yes.
I mean,
Oh, right.
you don't see that too often. That I think it's the first time that Rockford's lost in the regular season since 2019. So
Yeah.
it's like, and Hudsonville has had other games so far this season where it's kind of surprising when you see it. And then when you look at their whole body of work, like they have had a very impressive season. And I watched back the entire game today, actually, because I obviously wasn't there, but I watched it online, and they controlled the game. Like it wasn't just an upset. Like this was a legitimately good team beating another legitimately good team. That game to me is one that I may end up at this week. I think that's kind of the one I've got circled. But yeah, that's going to be a really fun war.
I can't remember if we. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
No, I was just going to say, I know on our Prep Pixium preview, and we always have Jason Hutton on talking about the West Side. Seems like every year he says Rockford hasn't lost a game in 2 years. Rockford, or a regular season game in 2 years. Rockford hasn't lost a regular season game in 3 years, and he mentioned that again this year. So yeah, that was huge. That was huge to see Rockford lose.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just going to ask you a kind of a general question. I don't remember if we talked about it before, but there's a lot of great rivalries out there. Kind of a two-part question. Who would you say in the teams you cover is the best rivalry? And then number two, what's your favorite stadium to go into?
Yeah,
that's a loaded question.
Yeah, it is. I love the rivalry between West Catholic and GRCC. That's the Grand Rapids area. It doesn't get much bigger than that. I mean, last year the fans took down the fence. There were so many people there leaning up against the fence. The entire fence collapsed and people went over and everything. I mean, it was crazy, but that's a historic rivalry that goes back a long ways, and it's been like every game feels like it's close. It feels like it comes down to the wire. It's one of my favorite rivalries ever. As for stadiums, I mean, Rockford has to be at the top of my list. I was there week one, and you walk in, I mean, just this giant, like 15-foot statue of a ram when you walk in, and like, how many high schools do you see with like upper deck seating? I mean, there's the grandstands, and then there's an upper deck to it. Like, you just don't see that at high schools. And I mean, they had like lights going, LED lights around the stadium, and I mean, and the place was packed out. Like, it's not just big for no reason. Like, they legitimately need that much seating to handle a Friday night game. It is unlike anything I've ever seen before. I want to make it to West Ottawa eventually, but I have not been there yet. But the pictures are pretty crazy of that.
Yeah, that one looks freaking sweet. I mean, a couple of my favorite touches about Rockford. One, the student section brings their own speaker, and it's the biggest student section you've ever seen. And they're literally having a concert like during this game, like it's an actual like NFL stadium.
Yes, it's crazy.
And then you gotta love the water tower off in the distance with the Ram on it. I think that's a cool little touch there too.
It's such a cool setting.
Yeah, it's amazing. This is another kind of big brain question. So I just saw today. Shocking news. So Flint Powers, who won a state title 12 years ago, is unable to field a team essentially this upcoming weekend against Frankenmuth. Yeah. I feel like a contentious topic has been sort of shrinking down the divisions from maybe 8 to 6. Would you be in favor of that, or where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I don't hate that. I think there is. I mean, 8 is a lot. It probably makes it easier for like scheduling purposes and playoff purposes, because I mean, if you condense it down to 6, you're probably going to leave out some decent teams. I mean, we already see decent teams get left out now. So unless they wanted to expand the playoffs and do something maybe like what they do with basketball, where everyone makes the playoffs and they got to kind of play their way through, but then you get a lot of lopsided games and you're getting late into the season at that point, and it's going to be freezing cold, and you're probably going to miss the Thanksgiving window that they love so much. So I think there's pros and cons to it. I would more probably be in favor of putting the private schools and public schools into their own divisions. I think that's probably more feasible and more like, you know, something that they would consider. I'm not sure 6 they would want to make it work.
Well, that's definitely been a topic for a long time, and our Corunna Cavaliers could have paid off with just public school last year. I can tell you that much.
For sure.
But it is what it is. Well, I will say this, Tyler. We always enjoy your input. We follow you. We love your stuff. Why don't you tell our listeners before we let you go the best spot to track you?
Yeah, so at MICHFB Frenzy on Twitter. I think it's MHFB Frenzy on Instagram. And then obviously I write for Prep Red Zone. So if you check out the Prep Red Zone Michigan site, if you subscribe to them, you can read all my articles on kids that I see, kids that send me film. I mean, I'm putting out multiple articles a week, and that's been something that I really enjoy. Like, I like having the, you know, kind of general breakdown of the teams, but then I love diving in on some of these kids that are maybe under the radar, maybe are under recruited at schools that don't get recruited as much. I love kind of focusing in on those and putting a spotlight on those guys.
Well, you know, we talked about it off air, but this isn't your full-time gig, right? I mean, the hours you put into this along with your regular job, it's amazing. I mean, it's funny to me. How do you have time to even have a wife?
Yeah, she's awesome. That's the way I do it. She's just great with, you know, and she's actually helped me turn down some things. Like I want to go to every camp and every, you know, event, every game. I want to jump on every podcast. Like, she's been kind of like, slow yourself down. But I warn her, you know, right as soon as we get to like July, I'm like, okay, we're going to start now. I will see you at Thanksgiving. That is the next time that I will kind of be slowed down. So
no more yard work.
Exactly. But no, she's been great. But yeah, I would love for this to eventually become a full-time thing. But right now I'm loving the way it is. So.
All right. Well, we'll be keeping a close eye on it as we always do. And we'll definitely get you on with us again down the road. We appreciate the time, Tyler.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me on again.
Jacobs Insurance Agency has served Shiawassee County and the surrounding areas since 1977. Just like 3 Point Podcasts, we've had 3 generations: Gary Jacobs Sr., Gary Jacobs II, Brian Jacobs, and myself, Noah Jacobs, serving our community with offices in Waterford and Owasso on M21, just west of Home Depot. Stop in or go online to jacobsinsurance.com to get a quote or get your questions answered by our team. Jacobs Insurance is a proud supporter of our local schools and the proud sponsor of the Prep Spotlight. Insure everything, local, independent, and trusted. It's our family working together to protect yours. That's the Jacobs way.
Well, good stuff there with Tyler, and let's get into some of the games from last week here in mid-Michigan. The game that had a lot of anticipation, but I guess I saw it wrong. Corunna, number 6 and D5, just completely dominated Owasso after the Trojans started the scoring off. I think Corunna ran off 33 straight points to win at 48-13. Quarterback Caden Cowdery, 7 of 10, 153. Touchdown pass to Isaac Jacobs, and I'll tell you what, Jacobs, he looks pretty good to me. Of course, he's an all-stater in track, but man, he can fly down the field, man. Great weapon.
What kind of kids are they breeding in Corunna right now? Like these track athletes that are also really good on the football field. I mean, he's only a junior too, right?
I believe so, yeah.
So right, he's got some time, 2 years to play.
He's
so
a big time deep threat.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. As for your prediction, I mean,
it must have been a two-sided coin, because you did say it was a coin flip, basically. So.
Oh well, you win some, you lose some.
Harvey Dent coin. Yeah. So it's kind of like, so we're going to talk about USC Michigan in a second. Spoiler alert: I may have bet on USC to beat Michigan, and that might have really messed with my brain as that game unfolded. But similar to USC. Owasso is kind of, until you see it with your eyes, they're never quite back. You got to see it with your eyes. So I know they're building. That was kind of a let's see where you're at, litmus test type game. Still got a ways to go to build it to get to where they want to go. It sounds like they're heading on the right path, but you were duped like I was with your prediction.
A little bit. And I will say this as well. I wasn't quite sold on Corunna until seeing what they did in that game and seeing them at full strength. I mean, they got some talent on that Cavalier team again. I mean, that game at Goodrich, you got to give the Martians the favorite role in that. But, it wouldn't surprise me to see Corunna go over there and give them a heck of a battle and, maybe pull one out. But they look good against Owasso. And again, it kind of was 50-50 to me. I think maybe Owasso, and even Coach Ron Tyner talked about it a little bit. They maybe weren't quite ready for the moment. They're improved, and they're going to probably have a winning record this season.
Yeah.
But going into that atmosphere, you don't know it until you play in it. And Jared, you and Matt both played in that game. It's a whole different experience, when you get in that kind of rivalry game with, there was probably, 5,000-6,000 people there. They are lined up alongside the fences again. I mean, it's a whole different feel. But I will say I came away from that game really impressed with Corunna. And I know we're getting a little long-winded here, but I do have something that I wanted to bring up in reference to that game. I think, Jared, you texted it to us about how come this game doesn't have a trophy, right?
Yes.
It had one originally, because I re-listened to the broadcast of that 97 game, and there's a traveling trophy somewhere. And I've reached out to Owasso's athletic department. I reached out to Corunna's. I reached out to your dad. Nobody seems to know where this traveling trophy is. And we need to find it. I'm on a mission. If anybody out there,
it has Owasso written all over it, man. It has Owasso written all over it.
Like when they maybe won one, and they just said we're going to keep it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, when they won one, but then when they lost, they just didn't give it up.
Right.
But so you went back and listened. Obviously, I don't know if you went and listened to 98, 99. I wonder how many years it was actually a thing. Was it only that 97 game and then it stopped?
No, I don't think so. Going off my memory, I think there were other years that the trophy was presented, but I don't know when it stopped. I don't know where it went to, because there was Chesaning and Corunna played for the old MMB trophy for a couple years, and I think that kind of went to the side.
No, it disappeared, but then it came back, because I remember all of a sudden it was like when I was in high school, all of a sudden the trophy is back.
Okay,
and it had like 15 years missing on the plaque explaining the scores.
Right.
But no, that trophy is sitting like I like to imagine it's probably an Owasso guy took it, because they're crooks. Took it, put it in probably some guy around Matt's age, I would guess, has it in his basement as we speak, from probably a game 2000, 2001. Go back and look at the years Owasso won. Look at the rosters. Look at the key players who probably would have been given that trophy, and that's how you can. I mean, here's the reality: you love these murder mysteries. I mean, my God, this is a mystery in itself. So I appreciate you bringing it to the podcast. Yeah. I'll support it in any way I can. If you can find it, I want to have that trophy for a night, like the Stanley Cup.
We need to find that trophy. So if anybody out there has any clue, and I also mentioned in the broadcast, because back in 97, evidently I did some homework. It has spots for 30 different years where you put the winning team on in the score. So where is this thing?
So there's a trophy somewhere. I mean, is
Yes.
is it at the Goodwill in Owasso? Is there still a Goodwill? Is it at the Salvation Army or something? Or it's somewhere. I'll say this. So my junior year was 2001.
Right.
So I played in it 01, 02, and there was not a trophy. So
Okay.
but somewhere between 97 and 01, this
So it
thing
didn't last long, did it?
Is it in?
Right.
Is it in Brad Van Pelt's shadow box? I mean, that thing's the biggest thing I've ever seen at Owasso. Probably somewhere in that trophy case at Owasso.
Maybe.
it's
Well,
down.
anyway,
It's down in the locker rooms at Owasso Country Club. The locker rooms that someone like
Oh,
hid
yeah.
it, stashed it away.
well, right now it's just how we talk about like the 47 team, the mythical state championship.
Yep.
We have the mythical Castle Cup is the winner.
And that's what it was called.
Well, that's what we call it,
Oh.
the Castle Cup.
What did it have a name though? Like,
No, I don't think
I'm
it
good
did.
at rolling it as the Castle Cup, but I'd be curious if it had a name back in the day.
I don't know, but
Okay.
I'm not going to give up on it. I'm going to keep trying to track it down.
And is this is the Castle Cup like Z92.5 the Castle or like the Kerwood Castle Cup?
No, Z92.5, the Castle Cup is what we've been calling it on the radio because we broadcast every game, Corunna and Owasso. But
It has dual meaning. Now that you say that, that's a kind
That's
of a good
right.
point. You
I
can
was
play
gonna
it
say,
off both
it
ways.
better not be Kerwood Castle. Kerwood Castle's in Owasso. We need to find something that's like right in the middle,
yeah,
like the Riverbend Cup.
I thought about it. This Shy River rivalry has a nice ring to it,
That's pretty cool.
but there is no like, what would it be? M21, the Battle of M21. I don't know what else it could be.
That's not bad.
no,
Yeah,
whatever. We'll have to find that original trophy and
It's
start
somewhere.
using it again.
It's somewhere.
That's right. A
That's,
few other.
hold on. Sorry, last thing I'll say on it. Sorry. If you're Corunna, you win that trophy so much that I like. This is another alternate theory for you to research.
Uh-huh.
Corunna's won it so many times. They're like, who gives a shit about this trophy? Trashed it on their way out one year after winning.
I remember. So we're really going off on a tangent here. I remember when I was in high school at one point. There's a random stairway, so you walk in the high school and that men's bathroom is right there. The office is over to the right. The gym's over to the left. There's
Mhm.
this random stairway right there that goes up to this like attic storage room, like up there. And
in
we
Corunna or Owasso?
Corunna.
Oh yeah, I know where you're talking. Yeah,
And we went up there one time when I don't even really remember why, but we went up there and it was packed with trophies. It
Oh.
was all trophies. And it was just, because we got the trophy. Obviously, it's very, very different than when I was there 20 years ago or whatever. But there were the trophy cases, of course. But you
Mhm.
can't put all the trophies in those trophy cases. So they just started shoving them up there. So maybe that thing's up there.
Oh,
I like
yeah.
that.
I may have
Instead
to
of-
make
yeah.
a visit. I may have to get the hazmat suit on and climb up there.
Right?
If it doesn't have a chairlift, you're probably gonna have to send a recon unit up for you.
Let's wrap this up with a few other scores. Number 3 in D6, Ovid Elsie, no problem against Duran, 42-7. Our man Trice Tokar, 71-yard punt return for a touchdown, 58-yard TD run from scrimmage, and a touchdown pass. Not a bad triple evening there. Clay Frucci had 125 yards rushing and a 35-yard score. Chesaning, they're number 6 in D6. They downed Mount Morris shootout, 54-23. Tribe had 523 yards in total offense. Max Volt, 3 touchdown passes and a touchdown run. Cal Frazier and Braden Florian, both over 100 yards with TDs for the Indians. Now, like I mentioned with Tyler rather, Chesaning has Birch Run and Montrose next. Ovid Elsie has Birch Run and Montrose next. So they just flip flop on the schedule. If they both can win, sets up quite a matchup October 11th at Ovid Elsie. And then finally, New Lothrop. I mean, is this the year that the playoff streak ends? They lost 21-20 to Birch Run, fall to 1-3 now in jeopardy of missing the playoffs for the first time in 25 years.
Wow,
Crazy.
that's not a streak you want on your head. You gotta. They'll get it figured out.
I think so.
They're well coached, so their best football's ahead of them. But yeah, that's a little nervous when you start thinking about it that way.
Yeah, you don't want to be the class that ends that streak.
No. So I'm sure Coach Galvis and his staff will be working real hard this week. That's the Prep Spotlight presented by Jacobs Insurance Agency, local, independent, and trusted. And we'll be back, talk a little college football, a little pro football, a little Detroit Tigers right after this.